Hi, this is Paul Chang. And if you're standing in an inch of cold, murky gray water right now because your tub just won't drain, put the phone down. Do not call a plumber. I almost made this exact mistake. I literally had the number dialed, ready to hand over $400 to some franchise guy just to spend 15 minutes running a basic metal cable down my pipes. It's honestly just extortion. Wait, actually the bigger mistake isn't even the plumber. It's grabbing that heavy, bright orange bottle of toxic gel from under the sink. We dump about $1.5 billion a year into those chemical drain cleaners, and they literally boil the glue off your PVC pipe joints. I actually smelled that harsh, burning chemical reek at my buddy's place recently when he ruined his plumbing trying to save a buck. Before I show you the $1 pantry item that actually melts these clogs in seconds and why the $158 billion plumbing industry desperately wants to keep it quiet, do me a favor and hit that subscribe button, because once you see the actual chemical reaction happening in your sink, you're never getting scammed by these guys again. Look, we've all been there. You finish a shower, and instead of stepping onto a dry mat, you're standing ankle deep in this lukewarm, soapy puddle that's slowly draining, or not draining at all. You poke at the drain cover with your toe, nothing. You get that waft of, you know that smell? That faint, sour, almost sulfur-like smell of old, trapped water and rotting soap scum creeping back up from the pipes. It's gross. And your first instinct, because we've been conditioned this way, is to panic call one of those big rooter franchises. You know the ones, the guys with the brightly wrapped vans and the catchy jingles. But here's what they don't tell you when you're on hold listening to their terrible elevator music. The U.S. plumbing industry is $158 billion, and a massive chunk of that revenue isn't from complex repiping jobs or installing high-end tankless water heaters. It's from extorting panicked homeowners over a blockage of hair and toothpaste.
They operate on a flat rate model. The dispatcher sends a guy who drags a heavy, motorized metal snake cable into your bathroom, probably tracking a little dirt onto your tile while he's at it. He runs it down the pipe for maybe 12 minutes, pulls up a nasty black sludge-covered clump of hair, and then hands you an iPad to sign. $350, $400, sometimes $600 if it's a weekend, for 12 minutes of work. It's insane. But wait, actually, let me back up, because the alternative that most people try before calling the plumber is actually worse. It's way worse. You decide you're going to fix it yourself, right? You drive to the hardware store and grab one of those heavy, brightly colored plastic jugs, the thick gels, Drano, Liquid Plumber, whatever brand is right there at eye level. You unscrew that child-proof cap, pour that thick, viscous slime down the drain, and wait. We spend almost $1.5 billion globally on this stuff every year. But here's the reality anchor for you. Plumbers love it when you buy that stuff. They absolutely rely on it because a $5 bottle of toxic gel is the fastest way to turn a minor, annoying clog into a $3,500 emergency pipe replacement. Let me explain that better because I didn't really grasp it until I saw the aftermath under a buddy's kitchen sink. Those chemical cleaners, they rely on highly caustic chemicals. Sodium hydroxide, sulfuric acid. When that thick gel hits the organic sludge in your pipe, the fats, the grease, the keratin, it triggers what's called an exothermic reaction. It creates heat, a massive localized spike of heat to literally melt the blockage. It's a process called saponification. I remember touching the exposed PVC pipe under my friend's sink about 10 minutes after he poured a whole bottle of commercial cleaner down there. The plastic was physically hot to the touch. It felt soft. That extreme heat warps the PVC. It literally melts the chemical cement holding the joints together. And if you have older metal pipes, it aggressively eats right through the corrosion layer and pits the metal. So that quick fix just ate through your P-trap, and now you have gray water slowly leaking into your drywall. They conveniently leave that off the front of the bright orange bottle. So if the plumber's a ripoff and the chemical gel is a ticking bomb for your house, what's the play? This is where the $1 pantry loophole comes in. And look, you've probably seen some mommy blogger or life hack video talk about baking soda and vinegar, but, and this is crucial, almost everyone does it completely wrong. They treat it like a middle school science fair volcano. They dump the powder, pour the vinegar, watch it fizz and bubble up into the sink basin and think, wow, it's working. It's not working. You're just making a mess in your sink. You are completely wasting the chemical reaction. To actually melt the clog in seconds, you have to understand the physics of what's happening in that pipe. You have to force the reaction to become a pneumatic ram. We aren't just dissolving the sludge, we have to weaponize the gas. Think about what a clog actually is. It's not a solid brick, it's a matrix. It's a sticky, nasty web of long human hair bound together by solidified animal fats if it's a kitchen sink, or a thick paste of body wash, shaving cream, and dead skin cells if it's a bathroom sink. It forms this dense, rubbery plug. When you just pour cold vinegar on room temperature baking soda, it fizzles weakly against the top layer of that plug. The gas escapes upwards, out the drain, and into your bathroom air. You smell that sharp tang of vinegar, but nothing moves. The friction of the sludge against the pipe walls is simply too strong. To beat that friction, you need a very specific 3-step thermal and pneumatic sequence. If you miss even one of these steps, you'll still be standing in that puddle of murky water. The first step involves something that costs literally $0, but it changes the physical state of the clog so the pantry items can actually do their job. Step 1 is the thermal primer. You need boiling water.
Wait, no, let me be highly specific here. Don't just turn your sink handle all the way to the hot side and wait for it to get steamy. That tap water tops out at maybe 120 degrees if your water heater is cranked to the absolute max. That is simply not hot enough to melt the hardened, waxy matrix of soap scum and body oils choking your pipe. You need a rolling, aggressive boil. I usually grab my electric kettle, fill it to the brim, and let it click off. When you pour that heavy stream of 212-degree water directly down the drain, you can actually see the steam billow up and fog the bathroom mirror. You're using pure thermal energy to liquefy the lipids. You're melting the glue that holds the blockage together. Step 2 is the payload. Once that boiling water is washed down, you dump exactly half a cup of plain baking soda directly into the drain. Sometimes it piles up on the little metal crosshairs of the drain cover. Just use a butter knife or your finger to kind of push the white powder down into the pipe. It feels a little gritty, but get it all in there so it sits right on top of the clog. Now, get your half cup of white vinegar ready, but, and this is the absolute most critical part of this entire video, do not pour that vinegar until you have a damp, heavy washcloth or a flat rubber sink stopper in your other hand. Here's what I mean. When the acetic acid in the vinegar hits the sodium bicarbonate, it instantly creates a violent chemical reaction, producing a massive volume of carbon dioxide. If you just watch it, the gas expands up and out. You lose all the kinetic energy. So you pour the vinegar and immediately, I'm talking within a fraction of a second, you slam that damp rag or stopper flat over the drain and hold it down tight. This is where it gets crazy. You'll literally feel the pressure pushing back up against your hand. Underneath that damp towel, you'll hear this aggressive, muffled, hollow, fizzing sound echoing down the PVC. Because you blocked the exit, that rapidly expanding CO2 gas has nowhere to go. But
you aren't just relying on gravity anymore. You've created a localized pneumatic chamber. You are physically ramming the melted sludge through the P-trap with pressurized gas. You hold that rag down for a good 30 to 15 minutes. Let the pressure work. It requires a little patience, which I know is annoying when your bathroom is a mess. When you finally pull the rag away, you're probably going to get hit with a pretty awful smell. It's the sharp, hot vinegar scent, instantly followed by the sulfuric, rotting egg stench of dislodged sewer gas bubbling up. It smells terrible, but that smell means you won. The blockage is broken. Flush it with one more kettle of boiling water to sweep the debris into the main sewer line, and you're done. So why the hell isn't this on the front page of every home maintenance site? Why did the guy in the shiny plumbing van tell my neighbor to never use pantry hacks? Because this baking soda trick is an endothermic reaction, or at least a perfectly safe, benign one. It clears the pipe completely, but it does absolutely zero structural damage to your plumbing. There's no massive heat spike, no warping, no melted PVC cement. It solves your problem for about 80 cents in materials and completely cuts the $158 billion plumbing industry out of the loop. They don't want you fixing this safely. They want you pouring Drano until your pipes literally disintegrate, forcing you to call them for a weekend emergency repair. You know, it's funny. You'd think building codes would outlaw those chemical gels entirely, given the chemical burns and property damage they cause,
but the lobbying money from big chemical is just too thick. So they stay on the shelves and plumbers keep getting rich off the collateral damage. But here is the catch. And I need you to listen to me very carefully right now, because if you skip this next part, you are going to make a massive mess of your bathroom. This chemical reaction is completely undefeated against grease, toothpaste, soap scum, and organic sludge. It will blast through it every single time. But it cannot, and I mean cannot, dissolve solid keratin.
If your drain is completely choked with a massive twisted knot of human hair, pouring baking soda and vinegar on it is just going to create a localized pressure bomb that has nowhere to go. It won't melt the hair, it will just force the nasty pressurized gray water backwards, blowing out your tub's overflow valve or just shooting gross water all over your ceiling. Before you can use the $1 pantry trick to blast the walls of the pipe clean, you have to physically extract that core mass of hair. But remember, we are not paying a plumber $400 to do it. There is a specific 10-second bypass for this, and it costs less than a fast food burger. Actually, let me show you. You don't need a heavy, rusted steel motorized auger like the franchise guys use. You just need one of these. It's an $8 barbed plastic drain snake. I started keeping a pack of these under my bathroom sink after my last run-in with a plumber. They're super flimsy looking, honestly. Just this long, bright orange strip of plastic covered in these aggressive little backwards-facing teeth. When you push this down the drain, it feels crunchy. You can actually feel it scraping against the calcified soap scum on the sides of the pipe. But when you pull it back up, look, I'm not gonna lie to you, it is absolutely disgusting. You will drag up a wet, black, foul-smelling monster of tangled hair. It's gross. Have a plastic grocery bag ready to throw it right into. But it takes literally 10 seconds, and you just saved yourself a $400 service fee for 12 minutes of work. I put a link down in the description to the exact barbed snakes I use. Grab a pack. Wait, here's the sequence. Once that core hair mass is out, that is when you drop the boiling water, the baking soda, and the vinegar, because now the pipe is open enough for that pressurized CO2 gas to blast the remaining sticky sludge off the PVC walls without backfiring into your tub.
And if you never ever want to deal with this nauseating process again, do what I did and grab a tub shroom. It's this little squishy silicone mushroom thing that sits inside the drain. I linked that below too. It catches every single hair before it even enters the pipe. You just wipe it off with a tissue once a week. Stop letting a $158 billion industry tax you for basic physics. Stop melting your pipes with toxic gels. Get the plastic snake, use the pantry loophole, and keep your money in your pocket where it belongs. If this saved your bathroom or your wallet, hit that like button, subscribe for more suppressed home truths, and check the links below to bulletproof your plumbing. I'll see you in the